You look very smart.
Oh, that's very kind of you. So good morning, Carrie. Nice
Good
to see
morning, Chris. Nice to see you too.
So how has lockdown been for you?
Gosh, I think strange, like the most of us. I think really, personally, it's been interesting, but I think watching what's happening out there, colleagues in our industry, it's been just wrenching, heart-wrenching to hear and see stories and people that you know and issues and problems. And gosh, I've been in one sort of side of me, our projects at the moment are very much in the infancy. So we've been lucky with that, but knowing so many people that they've kind of in the beginning or opened or just opening, it's been tough. But for me here, it's quite interesting. I think I've missed the freedom of life more than anything else. I think I've missed that. I missed the sort of the opportunities that you didn't necessarily always take, but they were there for you. But you had that freedom to come and go when you wanted to visit places. That spontaneity, should we just go and do this, or should we just go and do that? That I miss hugely, especially, as I say, our industry, because I love, what's happening out there, what the new ideas were, the thoughts were, supporting sort of just local people, that kind of thing. That's been a big thing. But interesting, I had my son, bless him, was about to move out just when lockdown happened, so he locked down with me.
Oh, brilliant.
yeah. And we thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a tough one, but we were the great thing to come out of that was we were incredibly kind to each other, understanding, and I think that we would never have sort of had that in, I don't mean that, not in that context, in that way, in real life, so to say. And we learned to sort of be, incredibly patient and tolerant and caring. And we cooked up a storm and, and took Mojo, the dog. God, I had Mojo, for walks as well, and social distance and so on. But I think for me, that was the sort of the one God send and save in my life, my personal life. And also, it's really incredible that I live in a street of, there must be 80 odd houses here, lovely street in Fulham. And probably a lot of them actually are apartments as well. So in other words, there could be, twice as many actually people on the street. I don't know how many in each, but we formed a night and street app. The sort of the day all happened, and the camaraderie, the caring for each other has been absolutely incredible. Helping people shopping, doing everything, but also everyone's had this sort of major clear out, haven't they, in lockdown? And they've been everything from baby car seats to whole pieces, sofas and wardrobes and you name it. Does anybody want it? And it's not for any money. It's for literally, if you want it, have it. And recently, which I've been so excited about, across the road from me, but don't tell anyone, there's a lady who writes for the Telegraph, she's a wine critic. So she's been having all these tastings.
Oh, superb.
I know. And then she leaves the bottles have been sort of this much taken out of the top for the tasting. And then she sort of sends a text out saying, right, there's some more on the street. And I right across the road. Terrible. And I've done really well with that, yes, but there's sort of donation to the food bank, which is a great cause too. But I think the idea is, that this whole community spirit has been massive. We've all been out clapping every Thursday. We've all been doing that, and we've got to know each other, and we're caring about each other, which is for me. I've lived here for 15 odd years, and I promise you, my neighbours on both sides I know, but that's about it. And now I went for lunch the other day with a lovely lady, again, social distancing in her garden, across my road, who I've never met before.
That's one of the challenges, isn't it? It's fascinating because actually peak communities really come together during this period. And it's partly why people don't want to lose that again, which is partly one of the problems of getting people back into the centre.
I know.
Because people actually really enjoyed really finding communities and local.
But exactly, and we've all been, even when our walks, so Tristan and I would walk through Bishop's Park all the way around again here, but the little tiny sort of Italian cafes, right places had all their, produce out on the street and all of that. We were paying over the odds for lovely burrata and bread and lemons and whatever else. Although I've got my own lemon tree, by the way. But that was sort of, but you were doing that because it was all about caring for the community and making sure that you actually were in your own neighborhood and you looked after your neighborhood. And yes, I hope that actually remains. I really do, because that was a big lesson to all of us, I think.
Well, to be fair, I think it will. I think long term, there's lots of good things to come out of this period.
Yeah.
I think it's just dealing with that short term period, isn't it, as we recover?
Yeah.
No, which is going to be painful, isn't it? And how's all this impacted on your developments? Because you're obviously working on a couple of developments.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, gosh, it has actually, to be honest. And sadly, we managed. Well, there were 2 projects that we put on hold. Because I think that one was just going to planning and one was sort of before that. So they felt they just didn't know what to do, how to do it. So it had been put on hold for the time being, which is a huge shame.
That's a shame.
Yeah, and of course I think you probably know, a lot of our projects are people that actually aren't hospitality background, so they haven't got the experience of that. They haven't got a big group or behind them, so they are really sort of entering into it and taking us on as their mentors, their operators, their everything. So we've had to sort of guide all the way through, and they've now kind of gone, well, we're not really not sure where and even some of the investments not necessarily UK investment, so they're kind of going, we're not sure. But luckily our most exciting and unique project in middle of Soho Denmark Street, Chateau Denmark, has been going and carrying on. They had to stop for a bit in terms of the building site work, but they've carried on. We've carried on. We actually went to site last week for the first time. I mean, we walked from Hyde Park Corner to Soho, because we got sort of dropped off there, and then thought, right, we're going to do the whole walking bit, and watching and seeing. I mean, gosh, it was even then quiet. It was just before everything opened on the 4th, but it was quiet. It was quiet.
Yeah.
So
very strange, isn't it?
It is very strange, but going and seeing, especially Soho, and then of course we saw the pictures the other day of Soho, which is slightly different, but we were there on a Thursday, last Thursday, and I mean, gosh, nothing open. It was awful, actually, quite, because Soho's, I mean, from our perspective, has always been the center, buzzy, amazing, eclectic mix of everything. And now it's just got shutters and closed and, occasional road sweeper, and that's about it. But we went to site, so that was lovely. So that's still going on a lot long. And that, I mean, it's going to be an amazing project. Well, it's an amazing project. It's going to be amazing. Well, when we finish it, it's incredible, because it's a whole campus. It's a whole district. It's, it's not just accommodation. It's got everything else going on there too. And it's got a venue, which is, hopefully we're going to make sure we can make that work, because who knows what's going to happen. I mean, it's a 2,500 capacity venue with 2 little smaller ones off it, 500, 250 a piece. So, yeah, how's that going to look in a couple of years' time? We're not entirely sure, so we're having to rethink that.
And when's it open? When's it formally open?
All things being, I mean, there was a couple of months delay because of what's happened, but May next year, we're aiming for. We're aiming for that. And because it's also this, I don't know whether you know, but it's called the Outer Net Global, where we've got these screens that are going across, which are sort of, I mean, incredible. It's all immersive, interactive shopping experience. It's just something mind blowing. But the great thing, because it's a double-edged sword, because we were sort of a bit worried, because the actual layout is over 15 buildings in terms of accommodation, which we're doing. So over 15 buildings on and around Denmark Street. So initially it was sort of, well, where's the lobby? Well, we haven't got a lobby. Okay, how do we do check-in? How do we do all this? How do we, how do you get a cup of coffee? How are you going to manage all that? And so we were sort of, before this all happened, it was a bit of a, how do we bring the community to these people? And so we were having to think of it from that aspect. And now we're rethinking it and thinking, well, actually, that's a great USP for us now, because there isn't a shared lobby. There isn't a shared environment space. You haven't got to worry about social distancing or touching something where you might be a bit nervous about, or brushing past people, or however you want to do it. So it's really quite the opposite. And we're now taking that and go, well, actually, let's use this to our advantage, which we are. And we're thinking the whole sort of scenario of how we do all this and how we actually operate as operators once we're in the buildings, and we are changing all around, which is actually, yeah.
It's really interesting because we're talking about this morning, another conversation, is how do you get people taking risk again? Yes. Because actually we've created a world that's actually risk averse. So everyone can see the dangers of coming to London. How do we actually build that confidence about it? And it's actually, how do you start getting people to actually be comfortable with taking a bit of risk? And that's going to be the challenge, isn't it?
It is, and I think if we can do this way, then I think it helps people. It eases them into sort of a more comfortable situation. And I mean, we've even we're doing. I mean, it's great because we're doing this sort of uniform sort of situation now, and we're doing all the amenities, and we're going through this whole journey right now through this sort of terrible period. But we've also looked at our teams, and we've actually said, instead of having these sort of the traditional roles and layers of responsibilities, and this is my department and that, which I've always hated, I think you know anyway. We've changed it and said, okay, right, so we will make sure that our people are multi-purposed and multi-skilled. So in other words, we'll have probably 2 people to sort of each kind of group of people, because we see it very much connected with the venue, and the venue is going to have hard hitting, it's going to be, it's a music. The heritage of the site is music. So we're going to bring all that back and make it what it would be. The guitar shops are still there. You're going to walk through a guitar shop to get to your apartment. I mean, how fab is that, And the history we've uncovered is just incredible. We've got the Sex Pistols graffiti actually on the wall. It's still there. So it's all going to be covered, which is quite extraordinary. I know, we've got Anarchy Suite, and we've got all these sort of, it's all very, very, and we're kind of making this a party place to be. It's, it's no such thing as sleep. We're selling party. We're selling back to mine is our strapline. But we're sort of, so our team will very much be, they'll check you in, they'll take you to a room, they'll make your martini, they'll do everything for you. So we've got, the team will be, as I say, multi-skilled. So it's not a question of going to reception, checking in, then being taken to your room by a porter, or then being, it's just all in all. So when we did the uniforms, it was extraordinary because the company we've chosen said, okay, so how many different roles do you have? And we said, well, actually, really only 3. 3, yeah. And so, well, hang on, what's traditional? I said, no, that's the whole thing. We are literally, and I said, when it comes to the uniform, you've got to think completely outside of the, the norm now, because we don't want this functional uniform. In fact, we call them outfits. It's about, we don't want any of that. There are no rules. There's no checkout time is completely and utterly gone, and all of that sort of stuff. It's going to be quite difficult to operate. We appreciate that, and we've got more team. We've actually staffed up. We're all doing the budgets and stuff, and staffing up more people in the evening than we are during the day. So it's kind of almost goes against every sort of traditional hotel type. We're not even calling it a hotel, but they're called session rooms. So which is extraordinary. We don't mention hotel anywhere. Even on our website, you wouldn't know. So it's quite a thing. So so from a people perspective, it's really making sure that actually, and I think that gives growth too, opportunity. And what we want to make sure is that people have that sort of ability to be able to feel that actually they're not just kind of just trained in one department or one area, and so all our guys will be able to do everything from concierge to F&B stuff to housekeeping to room, to the whole lot, which is what we're excited about. Very excited about.
I think that's great. And actually, that's what everyone's talking about, is how do you multi-skill people now?
Yeah.
It's going to become more important.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that everyone knows you, but don't know you.
Okay.
So a lot of your career has been in South Africa, where you owned restaurants.
Early part of the year. I mean, early part of the year. Early part of my life. Yes. But I came back here. I left. I was here at Oxford Poly, which is now Brookes University, of course. And I left here in '82, I think it was. Gosh, I'm not going to tell my age now. And I then was there for 12 years. So really, it was 12 years over there, and had my son over there, and then came back. So I've been here a lot longer than I have actually. Although I went back in between when I worked with you for a bit. So yes. So yeah.
And then Firmdale was obviously a key piece.
Firmdale, 19 years. So that's longer than many of my marriages lasted. Yes.
And those were great years for you as well, weren't they?
They were.
You opened the operations in New York and London as well.
I mean, that was so interesting to do that. And I have to say that I think when I went to New York the first time around, I thought, my gosh, I want to come and live here. I love it. I love it. Love it. And then interestingly enough, my sort of my thought process changed on that one as I spent some time there. I think because I find it quite difficult I like my home environment. I like sort of entertaining, eating, and of course, New York, the kitchen is as big as a postage stamp. And for me, that I find the people just going from work to another job and then to dinner and then quickly to sleep and then back out again. I found it a little bit too hectic, but I loved it. I mean, I spent 3 months actually out there where we opened Crosby Street and loved every minute of it. And Firmdale, absolutely, it was a great journey.
So what's been the most influential piece on your career and your thinking?
It's all about, I think finger on the pulse, and also the empowerment. I learned very early on in Firmdale that actually, the more you give to people, the more you get back. And to the time that I left there, I carried on all the head of department meetings, the housekeepers meeting, the concierge meeting. And then people say, well, why are you doing that? I said, because I want to understand what it's like all the time to be on the front line all the time. And I maintain, my offices, as you probably know, I always base myself in one of the hotels because I wanted to walk in every morning, go to see the breakfast, go into the kitchen, go and say hello to everybody, walk the back of house, see how everybody was, and then spend time on the floor to make sure that, the girls, the team, the room attendants, how heavy is that Hoover? Can you pull it around? Is a cupboard, the pantry there, is it sufficient? Have you got enough space for everything? Do you have to go up and down, up and down, up and down? All that sort of thing to me was hugely important. And then that sort of making sure that everybody felt so proud of their environment, happy to work in the environment, and therefore that rubs off on the guest perspective too. So it was all about, for me, that was what it was about. It was about people, and people being both guest and team. And I spent a lot of time. I had some great, I think Mike Williams was my first wonderful mate there in terms of, people development and HR. I'm not mad about that word. It's all about the people. So, and he and I went on a long journey together and bringing sort of a lot of touch points to it's sort of words and meanings, but making them come alive and making them real, make people believe in them. It's all very well having a whole lot of words that your company believes in, but it's making sure that actually people actually really believe in them and make them work.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you've always been a natural leader. What's it been like founding your own business now and building that up?
Well, I have to say, it was scary. I was headed on that. I knew I was going to do it, headed on that way. So I kind of geared myself up for quite a while before we made it. I did it rather. And suddenly, I think the first 6 months, I have to be honest, were very tough because I've gone from having a empire that I'm, part of and a wonderful, wonderful teams of people to suddenly it's me and it's just me. And oh my gosh, what happens now? And I struggled. I have to be absolutely honest. I struggled and it wasn't, it took me a while, but then of course I did a project in between. I went off and did Annabelle's in between. I did that solely on my own. And before that, of course, I actually I started my company and then went to work with you for a bit. So I was sort of kind of got nervous about starting then. And then I thought, no, I need to go back to, what I normally do and what I feel comfortable doing, which I did. And then I thought, no, come on, you've got to do that. So I did. And I did the Annabelle's bit for 3 months. And then I thought, right now, I'm ready now. And now I have a great team that work with me, work for me, and work around me. And the best thing is I had this philosophy that we're gonna work with people that we actually like working with. I'm not saying they're but it has to be a mutual kind of respect and understanding and that for me was really important. I think
that's coming through in your narrative because it's all about community and togetherness, isn't it? Which is actually for hotel companies quite rare.
Yeah, I always was. People sort of say even now that I was always sort of around and about and firmed. I was I made up that point and I cared. I really did care. And I feel terrible for what's happening for them now. It's just, oh gosh, I can't even begin. I mean, shocking, but that's important to me. That's important to me, that sort of feeling of being one, one unit, one team. That's what it's really for me. It drives me, the people side of it. Yes, exactly. And now it's great. I mean, yes, sadly we've lost a couple of our projects, but hopefully there'll be others on the horizon.
No doubt.
And I have a great team that the great thing now also is I think it's sort of, there's more of we bounce off each other all the time now. And yeah, we have a few spats every now and again. And that's sort of interesting for me. I kind of go, okay. And we get a bit feisty with each other, which is great. It is good. I mean, it is good. At the end of the day, it's good. So we actually, and our skill sets are different too, which I think, I mean, we've got sort of site operational and another side as well. So the operational bit, I'm more involved, but I've got to step back a bit more. One thing about myself is I have to learn to sort of just go, okay, to trust other people and let them get on with it too, which I struggle with, but I'm doing.
I think it's always a hard piece, isn't it? And leadership actually has become a bit of a dirty word in recent years, hasn't it? Because of lack of trust in leadership. But actually, it's something you really enjoy, isn't it?
I do, and I know I can be, I can be bullish, and I'm opinionated, and I sometimes it is difficult, but yes, I feel very strongly about that. Actually, positively, and if it's the right frame of mind and the right manner, then it's a very good thing. And I'm that sort of person. I mean, and I'm driven that way as well. I mean, I've just come off a Zoom meeting now, actually, with a project, and it's interesting. When you're working out, when there's so many different contractors and so many different people, it's almost like saying, okay, can we just resolve this? This is a very quick. It should be a very quick answer to a very quick question, but it takes time. But leadership, I mean, it's fundamental to any business, I think, and any project, quite frankly. And people aspire to that, but they want that, and they need to feel that actually they're secure in something as well.
I think it's what people need to rebuild, isn't it? That's why community is doing so well at the moment, because people are finding something that's been lost in recent times, I think.
Yeah, but I think on that, on that sort of side of it too, what I've learned over the last few years, and people say to me, "Oh my gosh, Carrie, you're far more sort of gentler, softer person," and anybody and everybody that knows me will say that, gosh, you are, and I think that's important too, because I think the leadership side is a bit like the community thing. You have to have a gentle, kind side to being a leader, at the same time as having the sort of the conviction of what you believe in as well. But you make sure you get that across in a positive way and not a negative or a damaging way.
That's true. And how do you think you've changed out of all this?
Out of everything, I think that I'm more content. I feel more at peace with myself. Actually, I feel that I'm not rushing, I'm not rushing so much all the time. I've got a lot of concerns. Yes, I've got lots of, we all have anxieties and all the rest of it, but I feel more comfortable in myself and at peace with myself. It took a while, as I said, it did take a while, but I feel I'm also a kind of gentle person. I do. I'm not such a sort of a, I don't barge my way through everything quite so well much. Others might disagree with that, but anyway.
It goes to stage. Look, Carrie, it's been lovely talking to you this morning. Thank you, and thank you for your candor.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
And I certainly wish you well with what the next steps are.
Oh yes, and one of these days I will have my Tuscan farm. That's for sure.
Oh no, God, I'm looking forward to that piece anyway. Tuscany's gorgeous, isn't it?
Bye-bye.
Bye.